All right, hello, LinkedIn and YouTube. We are live again today with Pomerol Partners and ZenOptics. We're going to talk about making sense of multiple business intelligence platforms and finally finishing your migration. Yes, I said finally. We have a lot of great questions prepared for the guests. Today, we're going to hear from John Fitzgerald from Pomerol Partners and Heena Sood, Chief Product Officer of ZenOptics. But if you have questions about the topic, definitely feel free to chime in. And also, as you're joining the session, let us know where you're tuning in from, because it's always interesting to see, the diverse group of people that we get in from the audience. So I'm actually going to go ahead and bring in John Fitzgerald. Hello, John.
Hey, good morning, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Good, good. Now that we've got all the technical issues out of the way, we are good.
Right.
Everyone has to know that we may or may not face issues today, so be kind to us, please. But John, let's get started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Pomerol Partners?
Sure. So I'm John Fitzgerald. I'm the managing partner for Pomerol Partners US. We're a data and analytics consulting company. We've got offices in the United States, London, which is where we were founded, and South Africa. But really all we do is data and analytics consulting. So we simplify data so your company can grow.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get started with Pomerol?
I've been in the industry for longer than I care to admit. And I was at an event for a partner of ours, Click, and ran into some of the guys from Pomerol, and we hit it off and decided we wanted to work together.
Oh, that's a cool story. That's actually how I've gotten any one of my jobs. It's also through just simply networking and meeting people.
Yeah.
Applications never worked for me, so they all go to a black box somewhere, and don't really get addressed. So we're talking about multiple BI platforms, and I know we're going to bring Heena Sood on shortly. But before we bring her on, I just wanted to get a little sense of maybe some background of how you got involved, or how Pomerol Partners got involved working with ZenOptics, and really what problem are you trying to solve here?
Yeah, so I had actually known their partner manager, their channel manager, from, again, back with working with Click. Click has been the glue that's held a lot of my life together for the past little over 10 years. But when Joe approached me and said, "Hey, we've got this cool thing, you should take a look at it," I started looking at it, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." We've got a lot of our clients that maybe they've got SAP and they're using Webby reports or something like that, and they say, "You know what? We want to do more. We want to do better when it comes to business intelligence and analytics." And so they say, "Okay, we want to implement Click," and we're helping them implement Click, but they end up in this situation where they've got a whole bunch of people that are stuck using the old Webby reports, and they've built a bunch of stuff in Click, and they've got sometimes low user adoption. Sometimes they aren't as the implementation goes on, you're not understanding what people need to do their jobs, or you just haven't gotten to the point where you've been able to convert everything. So there's a lot of things that ZenOptics could do that help address a lot of those challenges when you're doing a big migration project.
Okay, interesting. So you said big migration. Should we assume that this is only for really large, complex organizations?
No, I don't think so at all. I think anybody that is doing a migration, I think this will be a lot of help for, because you can get metadata about the usage and the licensing and all of that. So it's really about, the same reason why we use business intelligence tools and analytics is to really shine a light on the dark areas. And this really helps to shine a light on the dark areas of all of your BI platforms across the organization. So it works equally well. I wouldn't say that the micro businesses are going to get a lot of help out of a product like this. But obviously the upper end of the SMB space and the enterprise space are certainly going to find value in something like this.
Yeah, I think I forget the exact statistic, but most of the medium to large organizations use, I think, 4 or 5 different BI platforms.
Right. And they hang on and hang on and hang on until somebody finally finally puts the final nail in the coffin, but you can't do that if you're still seeing people referring to that Webby report or that Tableau dashboard that they just can't get rid of. You've got to give people the tools to do the job, and this helps make sure that you understand what people are using.
Yeah, and I guess that happens because different departments think they have different needs, or they simply don't talk to each other, and then they end up buying all this different software. So I know we're going to address the costs and issues of all that when Heena jumps on, but it's just amazing that even the smaller organizations, you'll see that they have multiple softwares, and I don't know if that's such a bad thing. Wanted to get your thoughts on it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's almost even worse in small and mid-sized companies because their IT governance isn't as sometimes I want to say onerous, but let's call it's not as robust. So there's not as many controls in place. So you've got people in the organization that are just going and buying whatever BI platform off of the shelf and just going and building stuff. So yeah.
We have a question on this from Sachin here. So won't this multi-platform situation pose problems at the ETL level too?
It does. But what we're talking about here is more of the BI platform, the front end. Mm-hmm. So there are other tools out there that will do more at the data level, more data catalog kind of things. But mm-hmm. This is really the front end of the whole solution.
Right, got it. I think at this point it would be great to bring Heena up on our virtual stage here. Hello, Heena.
Hello, Kate. Hi, John.
Hey, Heena.
Thank you so much for joining us here. So, Heena, before we get into questioning you, right? Let's do a brief intro. Can you just tell the audience who are you and what is ZenOptics?
Perfect. Yeah, would love to. So, hi everyone. My name is Heena Sood, co-founder and chief product officer at ZenOptics. ZenOptics is really one of the market leaders right now, Gartner named, in the analytics catalog space. And I know that's pretty much a new term. It is really evolving, trending, and growing. And I'm really glad to be kind of talking to all of you about how we help liberate BI silos and help, make sense of these multiple BI platforms that are just a given now. In today's world, it is a given, right? So how do you really embrace this disruption that best of breed brought to the analytics world? And we're here to help you solve that.
Awesome. So you mentioned BI silos. Can you either define or give an example of that?
Sure. I think everyone is very familiar with how, analytics has evolved over the last decade or so with enterprise BI kind of moving into self-service BI and then moving now into more the augmented analytics. And this goes back to some of what John, I think, was talking about. I was listening in the on backstage, but BI has evolved, right? And best of breed, which has resulted from the multitude of self-service BI tools out there, right, has caused those BI silos. But it's not always a bad thing, right? It's all about governing those BI silos, understanding them, and managing them, right? Mm-hmm. So as long as you're able to kind of understand what's the driver behind those silos and why, I think the whole migration journey of people kind of moving away from those silos and kind of trying to consolidate. So we come full circle, right? We went from single tools to multiple tools, and now we're back to kind of trying to say, hey, let's make sense of these silos. Let's try to manage and govern them. So I think it's a great story, great place to be, and I think the time is absolutely perfect to really, lock down on trying to make sure that you're liberating these silos and kind of managing them.
So it's not about going from one tool to many tools to then going back to one tool. It's mostly about, I guess, rationalizing and make sure you've got the right tools and then managing them properly.
Yeah, I think so, because you can't. Self-service is here to stay. Augmented analytics is here to stay, and there is a need for it. There was a need for it way back. That was what the rights to it. So I don't think But obviously there is a need to kind of look at consolidation in context of, making sure that you're using the right tool in context of what you're trying to do today. So, the example that John was giving about, I've been using SAP Webby, I'm trying to get Click implemented. How do I do that? Faster, better, quicker. How do I make sure I'm targeting the right people, right?
Yeah.
So that there is adoption, right? And migration is not so painful when I'm having to force people to leave something behind. Because everyone's very comfortable in their comfort zone, right?
Yes. I admit it. I also have tools of preference that I'm just used to using, and it's hard to make the switch. It's kind of like our favorite coffee cup, right? That's the one we use. We could use another one, sure, but we love this one. We know it. And sometimes it makes sense to let it go. Maybe it's cracked. Maybe there's a better one we need to get used to. So it definitely makes sense. We've got Ravi commenting here saying, we're glad to hear from Heena and John about their companies. It's very insightful to hear firsthand from the real players about BI tools. Migration journeys can be challenging. Can they really? Tell us about it. What are some of the main challenges of the migration?
I think priorities, like prioritizing which things do we need to do first and really understanding that, and also managing the transition. So one of the other cool things that ZenOptics can do that I was pretty impressed with is there's something that they refer to as workflow, right? So I can create a workflow where I can click a button and it will open up that Webby report and that Click dashboard. And, let's say you've got somebody that built something for themselves in Power BI and on in an Excel file, and they click that one button and it does their whole thing. So if you think about going through like the month-end process as a finance person and you have to go to 14 different places to do your job, this can streamline that process. It can also ensure consistency in the organization. So, the manager says, this is the process that we want you to follow. They could create a workflow and everybody would be following the same steps and making sure that nothing got missed in the mix of 42 different tools that you've got to look at to do your job. So even if you're not doing a migration per se, and you're not using it to prioritize, it can certainly make people more efficient and effective in doing their job with multiple platforms.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to add to that, I think, and you hit on the whole point about prioritization and just making sure everyone's aware. I think the change management aspect, right, is one of the challenges that everyone faces in this migration journey. And to the point that John was talking about with the workflows, if you think about it, what we do with that one click is, we're launching all these different assets of, various reports or dashboards in these tools, but the interface is exactly the same. So the change management aspect of trying to adopt a new BI tool while trying to, understand why you're using your legacy tool or your existing tool, it's really in the hands of that user to decide, because now they don't have to worry about change management, right? They're just interacting with their tools the way they used to, or the way they were. So I think that's a big, it's a challenge. And then here's how, I think we can solve that challenge and make it better.
Yeah, thanks for that. I actually wanted to ask about the workflow. Is there a place on ZenOptics, maybe on the website, where people can learn more about how this looks, or get a video or demo or something?
Absolutely. On the website, yes. There's multiple assets there that will help kind of explain that concept. So I encourage people to go out there and look at it.
All right, awesome. And I'll share a link in the comments first so people can find that easily. So Heena, we hear about a report catalog and a data catalog. Can you just tell us what are the differences between the two?
Sure. And, I alluded to this earlier when I said analytics catalog and, report catalog, analytics catalog, they're kind of synonymous. But everyone's very familiar with a data catalog. And I think we always get this question is, what's the difference? Are you guys, competing with data catalogs? Are you guys complementing data catalogs? Do you integrate with data catalogs? And the way I look at it is, again, this goes back to evolution of BI. BI, when you think of overall data governance, it's a very bottoms-up approach. The whole purpose of a data governance, data catalog implementation is you want to catalog bottoms-up all your data from, the analytics catalog or the report catalog is taking a slightly different perspective. And the goal is really to help you achieve or get to your data governance journey sooner by cataloging from a top-down perspective. So you're cataloging your BI metrics and your terms and definitions from a reporting and a dashboarding perspective. So you have direct insight into terms and definitions that are being used, and then you go down to basically inform your data governance journey so that you're really focused in on the scoping and the prioritization of how you'd like to implement your data catalog. So there are implementation points, obviously, but even if, let's say, you're not sure yet if you really want to invest in the data catalog journey, because I have personally been through the process of trying to do this multiple times, and there are many stops and starts, as we all know. But if you have a tool that could help you now catalog top down and inform that, I think you're in a much better position to really have success in that overall governance journey. So,
okay, yeah, I think
kind of a top-down, bottoms-up approach.
Yeah, I think most of the folks in the audience would be more familiar with a data catalog. But if we were to do a reports catalog, and did you say analytics catalog and reports catalog is kind of the same thing?
Synonymous.
Synonymous. Okay. What would be some of the steps that a company or a person would take to start building that up?
Well, contact ZenOptics. But
Step one, call Heena. Step two.
Yes. No, I mean, so let me clarify. When I said they're synonymous, the report catalog or the analytics catalog is not just about cataloging the metadata, right? Obviously, we start with cataloging all that report content from those multiple BI tools. Now, that could be reports, dashboards, it could be just documents, right, from network drives or SharePoint locations. And along with that, we're cataloging the metadata. So you're basically now able to, and we do this through our smart connectors. So we're connecting into these source BI tools, repositories, applications, allowing you to bring that in, and then providing you with a platform to catalog that, curate it. But really, the business user doesn't need to worry about all that, right? The end user who's really dealing with this challenge of multiple BI tools is coming in and just really going, right? Having this one-stop, single pane of glass consumption experience, not having to worry about, going to their 3 or 4 BI tools. So that's kind of how we do it. There's definitely more information on the website, and I can keep on talking, but I'm sure you have other questions.
We've got more questions, Heena, but thank you. So we got a comment here from Kel saying business intelligence on business intelligence, right? Total need, as we now have front-end silos, not only back-end silos. So he says that evolution is here. I agree. Yes, I think we won't be able to do away with it, so might as well try to manage it properly. Is what it is. So now we're in a pandemic, right, Heena? And people still have this need to get business intelligence on business intelligence tools. Are you able to do this type of work remotely, or did you guys have to take a pause at the moment?
No, I mean, I think we haven't had a slowdown. In fact, we've seen an increase. The remote, the model of deployment or interaction, really has not affected us in any way in terms of reaching out to prospects and customers and supporting them. In fact, given that we're all remote, the need to have BI on BI, the need to really connect and understand how people are using content, their BI content, and if there were migrations in progress, how do you really, continue to work through those migrations, right? So I think that being remote has not made any difference. In fact, I think it's become more important to kind of address this need.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and
So
if you think about it, Kate, sorry to interrupt. If you think about it, though, we've got all these people now that are, for the most part, working at home, isolated. In some cases, their family is around, or they're trying to manage e-learning, but they don't have the ability to get up and walk 10 feet and go to somebody's desk and say, "Hey, I'm having a problem finding whatever. Can you help point me in the right direction?" So
yeah,
even without doing a migration, something like that workflow where you can define a process, if you've got a very large scale implementation of any BI platform, all of a sudden it becomes impossible to find what it is that you need. So I can see in the pandemic things like that workflow and making it easier for people to do their job and find the relevant information for a particular task. I can see that being even more popular during the pandemic time.
Mhm.
well, I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? More popular, more business. That's
Right.
comes up. Sorry, it scrolled up. So Manish had a question here for both of you. So what is the future of BI reporting tools? So things like Power BI, Tableau, and obviously Click, right? What are you guys thinking for the future of those tools?
For me, and what I'm seeing in the marketplace, first of all, much more adoption in all aspects of the business. It used to be fairly technical people that were going and building this stuff out, and I think we're making it a lot more approachable. Certainly Pomerol is, most of our business is with Click, although we also do some Power BI. The move to subscription and the move to the cloud, Click is really aggressively moving to the cloud, and so I see more and more people wanting to buy that way. I see more and more people wanting to get the data out to as many people as possible. And then we're starting to see a lot more interest in trying to integrate machine learning into their solutions. So whether it be forecasting or classifying people as good, better, best, or some other kind of classification like a churn model classification, and getting that data into the hands of the people that can actually take action on it. That's where it seems like everybody is going, is trying to include as much analytics as possible. And then last thing I'm seeing is a lot more in the natural language processing arena.
I was just going to add that. Yeah, so you'll be able to ask, hey, how are my sales? And I'll pop the dashboard or something. So
Yeah. So that, I don't want this to be a Click commercial, but Click has got things like the Insight bot, or they've renamed it to like the Insight chat or something like that. But basically, you can use your phone and you can ask it a question like, what were my sales last year by territory, and it would bring up a report for that, or a visualization for that. But again, now you're talking about more people using the platforms, and you've got more platforms out there. More content is being generated all the time, and you can't have, it's kind of like marketing 101. You can't be all things to everybody. You can't have a single dashboard that is going to be all things to everybody. So you've got to build these specialized apps that really focus on a particular business case that you're trying to tackle. So then in order for somebody to do their job, they are having to go to multiple places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got a question here from Gopal. So it's similar to what we were talking about. Was, do you think the future of the BI platform is in danger as we empower citizen analysts with tools and technologies for creating data centricity in the business?
I don't think there's any danger in it. I think there's a danger of people not testing. So I think there's still a case to be made for governance, and what governance looks like becomes much more important in the age of citizen data science or citizen analysts. Mm-hmm. We really have to do a better job of training people and making sure that they're testing. often joke, coming from a more technical background, I often joke that business users don't test. And so if we're allowing people to do a whole lot of self-serve, we have to make sure that they know how to test their data, and data literacy becomes more important in that regard.
Yes.
But governance is everything, and governance is going to change a lot as we have more people creating their own content.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned governance, because I got a question that just came in around governance for Heena. So Lorene is asking, so absolute value of having a BI catalog comes when using the multiple BI and analytics tools, increased productivity and governance. So governance has become an issue for users. Can we bring up how ZenOptics can help users in the terms of governance? Heena, all yours.
That's a perfect cue. I was itching to say something when John was talking about governance, but to the previous question about citizen analyst, I don't think there's a danger there, as long as, and we talked about how self-service is here to stay, and it's not something that's we want it to go away either. But the ability to govern that, right, and just kind of assign, whether that is business owners that can easily certify content and say that, hey, here is a certified workflow, or here is your certified report or dashboard that meets this requirement. And you always have those users in the business who are creating the trends, who are really the people leading the pack in terms of self-service and kind of proliferating content, dashboards, and BI information. I think if those users are empowered through some form of a very simple governance model that ZenOptics provides, you're not actually creating complexity, but you're creating a little bit of a managed environment where people have trust and confidence in that content that is being built, right? So it's all about coming back to saying, we're not here to fight the disruption. We're here to embrace the disruption and support it, so that people feel empowered to make decisions off the right information.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually got another question for you, Heena, that's very relevant to what you're talking about. And the question here is, do you run into BI fatigue with prospective clients? Are they resistant to adding another layer? And if so, how do you address that concern? I think that's a great question. Because people might say, we already have so many tools, now we're doing this on top of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we in our communication and our conversation are trying to be very clear about the fact that we are not a BI tool, first of all. We're here to really help you manage and drive value out of those existing BI investments, right? The BI on BI, the governance, the productivity for the business user. So yes, it is definitely that layer, consumption layer, single pane of glass on top of those BI tools, but the ease of how quickly you can actually put that together, has value in itself. And there is like I mentioned earlier, there's no learning curve for the user. There's no We're not changing, how you interact with Power BI or how you interact with Click just because you have ZenOptics, right? You're actually making it better, right? So most prospects who are dealing with this, when they see the platform, they get it in an instant, right? There is absolute fatigue there. Yes, sometimes you absolutely get that question, but I think based on how we, can kind of demonstrate the value.
It was kind of breaking up. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, when you start this, building the report catalog, do you have clients that make a decision to remove some of their BI software tools, or do they just keep them for the most part and then manage them better?
It's a combination. We have customers that have decided to use ZenOptics to kind of catalog or understand what's even out there. A lot of times when we start, and let's say they decide they want to go in with their 3 or 4 BI tools that they want to catalog in ZenOptics, they think they have about a few hundred or maybe a few thousand reports in a system, and they're shocked when they see that they have much more than what they thought they had. So I think it's now, there's two aspects. So you can bring everything in and you can inventory it and you can do your BI on BI. You don't have to expose everything to the end user, right? You don't have to. So there is a layer in how you can administer the platform. And that's where using ZenOptics sometimes as that golden BI platform really adds value, where you can say, you know what, I'm going to bring in all my business objects content, but because I'm trying to drive this migration to Click, let me only catalog my golden business object reports that people still really need till I can migrate them fully into, let's say, Click, right? So there is a combination. You can, customers can decide and say, I don't want to really expose everything. Let me start with, a very targeted view, or let me start with everything because I know there's usage, and then let me measure that and then adjust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got, so the person who asked that question said, thank you, Heena. No learning curve is probably the number one selling point. That's always the best, when people don't have to learn to do anything new.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We've got a great question here from Adrian, and others have requested that we address it. So how do you maximize user adoption? Okay.
John, do you want to take it, or you want me to?
Sure. I could start, and then you can add. I think a lot of times, if we're in constant communication with the users, we're going to do a better job of getting user adoption. And that communication can take a lot of different forms. Obviously, we're not sitting down face to face and helping people get comfortable with whatever application, because we're not doing face to face. But really, that one-on-one time with some power users, make them really, really productive, and make sure that they are that it becomes business critical, right? So it's not enough to build a dashboard that shows a sales rep, like, here's what your numbers are, here's how many opportunities you had, here's what your close ratio is, here's what your forecast is for the rest of the year. What you need to do is you need to make it so that they go there every time to figure out, what should I do next? So I want to surface, these are the 5 opportunities that you have touched in X number of days, based off of, it could be based off of the size of the opportunity, it could be based off of the stage, but you want to drive action. Once you start driving action out of people, then I think your user adoption increases. The other thing is executive buy-in is absolutely critical. Back in the day, I did a CRM implementation, and we implemented Siebel, and found out that one of the sales managers was requiring his sales rep to submit an Excel file at the end of the week with everything they did. And it was like, well, now we've got a whole section of sales reps that there's no way they're going to use the CRM tool, because management has told them that tool isn't important, the Excel file is.
Yeah.
Thing with BI, if we're not running our meetings off of a dashboard and using that information, then all of a sudden people think, well, that's not important, so they don't use it as much. So I would say focusing on what actions can we drive, and then reinforcing that through management use of data.
Yeah, I've actually seen that firsthand as well, where you spend so much time and energy going back and forth building dashboards, and before a meeting, you get like, can we put this in Excel quickly? I'm like, well, that's great. Yeah, I could just reverse time and just send it to you. That would have been great. Adrian says he likes that, John, the hearts and minds approach. So.
Thank you.
And he also says, as techies, we look to a tech solutions, we need to remember it's all about people, data ergonomics. It really is all people. That's all we want. Bringing it back to report catalog. So Heena, what's the value of putting together a report catalog before doing a migration?
Well, I think it's, if you ask me, I think it should be step 1 or a prerequisite. But I think it's going to, it's evolving, and people will realize the value of it. It helps you establish your baseline, right? So think of the ability for you to now be able to understand all your reporting assets in one place and manage them, and help define kind of that migration priority. Going back to, how can you reduce some of the challenges, prioritization, right? So now if you have BI on BI, you've kind of cataloged all your content, you can check and see, okay, who's using what, how often are they using it, why aren't they using it, right? And that goes back to some of the questions about adoption is you've built all these reports and dashboards.
Yeah.
If you're not really using it, you can actually go have conversations with the users to find out, hey, is something missing in this dashboard? Or, you requested this 3 months back. You haven't used it more than once. Is there a reason? Is there another tool out there that you're using, right? So being able to have that in place to inform your migration is, I think, golden. Right now, people have already started out with their migration. So I don't think that, it's too late. I think it is, the time, it's always pertinent and always relevant to bring it in. Before it's obviously biggest bang for the buck in terms of being able to inform that. But even during your migration, the ability to help the adoption journey and to kind of drive the migration to really move and not have that stop. People go back and revert to their existing tools, I think is very valuable because of the insights that you get out of the tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we were chatting about adoption. So Nicholas said adoption, make it relevant, make it easy via workflows. And I wanted to follow up with a question. So how exactly does ZenOptics help either identify, measure, or report on user adoption?
There is a full report or a BI on BI module within ZenOptics that tracks not just adoption within kind of through the ZenOptics platform, but we also track, how people are using the tools natively as well. So we do bring in those stats from the tools also. And then through this really robust dashboard, we're able to provide, stats around, what are the largest number of reports out there, but who's, what's the usage most on? What am I using? What am I not using? Which users are really using these reports, right? So in terms of measuring the adoption, there are some key statistics that allow you to see what the consumption patterns are, and you can actually take action on those because we provide not just, hey, here's a report that's being used, but we also can tell you who's using it or who's got access, but who's using it. So, correlating to saying, hey, here are the people not using it. So let's go figure out why they're not using it.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, so if a tool, for example, a report has a low user adoption rate, but the user is really important, right? It's the CEO of the company that's using it, but he's the only one or she's the only one. Is there a way that you can tell that, kind of mark it as low but significant?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, as part of the rationalization that one of our customers did, they worked with those business owners to really decide, once they got those metrics to kind of see, okay, here are the reports, maybe some of these aren't being used, but who's really using them, right? And then being able to flag and say, what, these are critical reports. We're not, we're not migrate or sunset these, but, let's maintain them till we kind of have our full migration plan in place.
Okay, got it. Also a question on how long something like this would take. I'm sure this will vary, right, based on number of tools, platforms, reports, dashboards. But how long does the process typically take to put together a report catalog?
So the technical component of it or the implementation component of it is fairly simple. I would say if you benchmarked a 2 to 3 BI tool environment, you should be up and running in 4 to 6 weeks with the full environment. Okay. You then have probably a couple of weeks of time, and this process of cataloging, understanding your content can start off as soon as within week. The first 2 weeks, you can actually start getting a sense of your content and being able to really understand, how do I categorize it? What are the workflows that I should build for these users? Bring in your key business users to really pilot the environment and understand, usage and kind of drive some of that adoption, building out the various components of it. There is, very robust search. So being able to just find the information allows you to, even without having any of that done, even without having your categories and your workflows built, you could onboard your users, because searching for information is so basic and so easy that, one of my customers, we were talking at a conference, and he said, you know what, Heena, even if I could, the only thing that I really use the most is just the ability to come in and search for what I need and just be able to find it like that, right? So I think the value of it for a business user could be, day one, based on kind of the use case.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. So the search feature, basically, if I had a question on finance and I wanted a report on finance, I type in the word finance or research or whatever that might be. What if I personally don't have access to that specific report? Would that still come up, or would it come up and say you don't have access? What will be the outcome there?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll come up. You can discover content. The whole purpose is to allow you to discover content that's out there. So it will come up and it will tell you don't have access, and you can request for access directly from there. And now you've done two things, right? You've potentially eliminated the creation of a duplicate, because you don't have to go ask IT to build something for you. And you saved IT time to focus on other more important things. So absolutely, yes, the search it's across the enterprise in terms of the assets that exist.
I can definitely see that being very useful if you can search across all the different platforms, because if you're a Tableau person, you just search the Tableau, and even if you don't have access, sometimes I don't know if it all comes up. I haven't used Tableau Server in a while, but I remember not seeing the full view of all the reports in a company, because you can only see what you have access to.
Yes.
So that's a cool feature. Let me see. There's a question here. It says from LinkedIn users, so I guess they have their settings for privacy. But what tools do you see emerging for ingestion and data cleaning? Not sure if this might be a bit off topic since we're on the front end of the data process, but wanted to see if one of you can address that.
As far as data ingestion, we're seeing a lot with more like streaming data replication. So formerly Attunity, but click replicate. I'm also seeing Fortran, and I always see Talend every once in a while, not as frequently. But then data cleansing is really, a lot of it is based on the ETL process. So most often the clients that we're dealing with are going to be using some kind of ETL tool, regardless of what they've got to do that data cleansing.
Okay, thank you. So I know we spent a bit of time talking about migrations, but Heena wanted to ask, are there other things that ZenOptics can do? What else is there?
There's a lot. I think, we serve, I would say, 3 high-level constituents, right, or personas. There's the business user, right, who sees tremendous productivity improvement because now you have this one place to go. You have features like workflows that can really automate your business processes. You can search for content, find information really easily. You can collaborate. We are doing a lot with being able to really inform the user about, trending content, popular content. Hey, here's what you should be really looking at. So really, from a business user productivity perspective, there's a lot of features and functionality there. From a BI steward perspective, and this goes back to the whole analytics governance component, the ability to certify content, right? Whether it's a report or a dashboard or a metric or a term, being able to govern that and have visibility. Well, first of all, you've got to have visibility to be able to govern something, right? So providing that visibility and then allowing you to govern it is kind of the second aspect. And then the third aspect is the whole rationalization and supporting, whether it's IT driving migration or a business group driving a migration, the whole BI on BI really helps support that. So there's multiple components. The features kind of correlate to each other, but also in terms of specific benefits to these different consumers, you can kind of see them individually as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So ZenOptics does a lot, guys. Go check it out. What is it, ZenOptics.com? Is it as simple as that? Or
absolutely simple as that. Yes, we like to keep it simple.
Yes, simple is good. So Heena and John, I want to thank you for your time today. I think we had a really great session. I love these sessions because I learned so much by talking to people like you. And I really love the questions that came in from the LinkedIn and YouTube live audience. So thank you for everybody who joined us. The last question I'd like to ask the guests are, where can people go to continue the conversation or learn more about what we were just talking about? So, if we can just start with you, where can people go to continue the conversation?
ZenOptics.com. You can look at, lots of information there. And then there is a contact us section. So please reach out and, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, awesome. And John?
Go to pomerolpartners.com. That's Pomerol Partners. Well, I guess everybody's seeing it on the bottom.
I was just going to say, it's on your...
And it's right here.
Oh. Yes, yeah, you got it.
But yeah, and also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect and share discussions. And you can follow me on Twitter at BizIntelli, BizIntelli. My superhero name. So yeah, happy to connect with anybody.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. It was fun. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Heena.